for the most part, it's going to be the same role he's been in. So then you have Bryce Brown and Christine Michael saying whether or not they're going to who's going to be the starter there. And Bryce Brown was in practicing as the starter. Based on what Carroll has been saying, I expect Bryce Brown to get the bulk, have Christine Michael be a good, solid backup, and Fred Jackson be the third down role. But it could be the exact opposite. So it's very scary to actually start any one of those three. But if I had to start one, it would definitely be Bryce Brown.
Yeah, it's really a brutal situation. There's no way you can confidently start any of them. If you have to make the decision, as of now, Carroll has said that Brown would be the de facto starter.
Is that the word? Because I was wondering, what are you hearing from Carroll? Because I have been in the dark about it.
That's the last thing I had read somewhere. We can verify that.
Okay.
However,
because there was a beat reporter that said he thought that they would split carries.
Yeah. I'm just saying Brown will start.
Okay.
He'll be given the first opportunity. Everyone's going to be given a chance, but Michael knows the system.
I mean, Pete Carroll, these were some of the words after they signed Christine Michael. I mean, he knows the system exactly. He's a much better backup than DeJuan Harris.
Or even Bryce Brown.
Or Bryce Brown. But I mean, one of them has to be the backup. But he said that that he likes Christine Michael, but he said that doesn't mean he's going to be the feature guy or starter or anything like that. He's just coming in here and trying to help us out, and we'll see if that works out. That's what he said about Christine Michael.
Okay, that's helpful. That is helpful, and I think this situation, like many others in fantasy football, to the patient one goes the spoils very often. A lot of people want to lock and load a lineup on Tuesday. I can't tell you to do that. I can tell you who I would lock in if today was the day you needed it, but you need to pay attention to those reports, because if tomorrow we come out and if what Jason's saying gets confirmed, Carroll says, hey, he's going to get the lion's share. It's going to be Bryce Brown. That's going to change how I start him compared to guys like Hightower or Gore or some of the other names. So
the voyage of Michael this year, let's just break it down from a player standpoint, is a pretty fantastic voyage of you start the year Super Bowl contending team, right?
Yes.
You get traded away to Dallas. You're like, okay, well this could be worse. This could be worse. But and then Dallas, you're like, okay, it's okay. And then they fell apart. Like, oh, you get cut. You get picked up by a practice squad on a team that may or may not make the playoffs. Then back to a Super Bowl contending team. Whee!
Yeah, and we'll see. He'll do what he always does.
I'm not saying that Michael's going to be the reason they're there. I'm just saying his voyage around the NFL is pretty funny.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about LeGarrette Blount. He was placed on injured reserve, which means the Patriots have now lost 2 running backs to injured reserve this year with Dion Lewis and LeGarrette Blount.
I'll tell you what's going on.
We don't know if Blount will even be back in Dynasty Leagues. I don't think he'll be back in New England.
Arian Foster's brother is at it again, people.
Yes, you put a lot of blame on him. Unduly.
It's a joke.
Is it? There's some rumors about Steven Jackson that have not come to fruition. Brandon Bolden is a very valuable player to that team, but you still have to be looking at depth, at reliability, at not inducing an injury on a very valuable special teams player in Brandon Bolden. And he's not really your prototypical every down, not the guy that they want for the playoffs. Montee Ball was signed to their practice squad. He's weighing in at about 230, 240 pounds compared to when he was drafted at 205. Steven Jackson has 3.7 a carry last year, hasn't played all season, probably not in game shape, although he's known for being in shape. I don't know if they're going to sign him or not. Nothing imminent is what I'm hearing, so that has no bearing onto this week's game, so it's Brandon Bolden this week.
Yeah, unless they sign someone last minute, that it would have to be someone like a Steven Jackson. They sign anybody below that kind of level, you can't imagine they're going to come in and be ahead of Brandon Bolden. So at this point for this week, I think it's Brandon Bolden, and I think it's James White as well. You're going to see a few more carries go his way, and maybe just a different game plan for the weapons that you have. And everything changes every week with the Patriots. So you don't really, it's almost no different. Because if you just take LeGarrette Blount out, put Brandon Bolden in, are you really confident starting Brandon Bolden? No, not really.
Yeah, I agree with you. You're not really confident. So he was obviously a big waiver wire pickup. I think teams like myself who are desperate for running back would have loved to just roll him out there and see if you get that lucky game where the big back gets 2 touchdowns in New England. Let's move on. There is a lot of news. I'm not going to skip anything because I think it's really important that everybody get caught up on the big news here. So if you guys think of something else or something breaks during the news, let me know. TJ Yeldon did not practice. The report is a sprained MCL. Most of the time, that is a multi-week injury. That being said, Fred Jackson has played straight through it before. We don't expect Yeldon to play this week. He's out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. He's out. He does say that he hopes to play next week. How much do you like Denard Robinson this week?
Denard Robinson, and we'll get to this later, and I'll give my reasons why.
At home versus Atlanta, by the way.
I like Denard Robinson quite a bit this week. I think of all the waiver claims, he's the guy that he's the only guy you can start confidently this week. I'm not so sure about that week 16. It is normally a multi-week injury, but we have seen with Yeldon once before in week 7 where it looked for sure like Yeldon was going to be out and Denard was going to be the guy, and Yeldon started and got all the carries and was okay. So, when I look at an injury to a player, the best thing of predicting the future with them is looking at their past. And so it's too small a sample size with Yeldon, but we've just seen that once. So I'm definitely not going to say, well, an MCL keeps him out week 16.
And I will retract the official out. It is not an official out. So doubtful for this week.
But when the news is coming out that a guy hopes to play in week 16,
yeah,
you need to be prepared for him to be out. I like Denard Robinson a lot this week. To me, he's not a guy who can do it week after week after week. But good news, everybody, 1 week. That's what you need from Denard Robinson this right now in a great matchup. I with a volume. Who else is going to get carries and catches?
Denard
there?
Robinson, Frank Gore.
I'd go Robinson.
I would as well.
Okay, I'm just putting some. Those are the decisions people are making.
Fresh. He is fresh.
I'm going to stay at the running back position right now, and then I'll come back to Eifert and Edelman and some of the other news. Ron Rivera has ruled out Jonathan Stewart. Stewart's out. The reports in weeks past have been Cameron Artis-Payne, the rookie who we've talked about in the beginning of the season, might have the bulk of the early down work. But yesterday, Ron Rivera kind of came out and said, well, it's probably going to be Fozzie. It could be Tolbert. Cameron Artis-Payne will have his chances.
It's a mess.
So to me, this is called reading the game flow. It really is. And to me, playing with a different offense, like the production from Jonathan Stewart has been statistically nearly twice as efficient as the other backs when they've gotten carries this year. So the offense, to me, it's going to struggle to some degree. Am I wrong? If you don't have a guy that's been twice as efficient as the other running backs,
yeah,
I mean, they can make adjustments. I'm not saying they can't.
It's very possible it struggles. I'm not going to doubt Cam.
No, and it's not so much that I think Cam's going to have a problem. It's just you're going to New York. Game flow wise, what do you project as a score in this game, and who will be out there in that context?
I think it'll be a higher scoring type game. And what I mean by not doubting Cam is I think Cam will pick up the slack and he'll take over for the lack of Jonathan Stewart. I think the running backs will be okay. The Giants are a very poor running defense, so I don't think there will be much trouble for Carolina, really.
But what does that mean?
Who's the guy?
Like, here's the thing. Here's what I'm getting at, and maybe I didn't explain it good enough. If the Giants are out of the game in the first quarter, it's going to be a lot of Tolbert or maybe some opportunities for Cameron Artis-Payne in the end of the game. If the Giants are putting up points at home, fighting for the playoffs, a little bit of Carolina's defense is on fire, but you've got Odell Beckham Jr.
Right now, based on
Fozzie would be out there in a close game. Is my point.
I would play Fozzie.
Yeah, if you have to play one, you have to play the guy that has been said is the de facto starter because he gets first opportunity. Now, I could absolutely see a game where you're giving him that first role, that like veteran start, because he's been there so long, and but then roll to the rookie. I could see that happen. What I would say is you don't want to start Fozzie, and you definitely can't start Cameron Artis-Payne, but with what is coming out about Jonathan Stewart as far as week 16, maybe resting, then we look at the history of Jonathan Stewart. When he gets injured, that, generally speaking, is something that is a little bit slower to come back from. So I would want both of those guys, or either of those guys, Fozzie or Cap, on my bench and wait and see, because I think one of them is going to be very valuable.
But
we
you
just
can't.
don't know who.
You cannot wait. There's 2 weeks left.
Well,
How do you wait and see?
There are
you just
plenty
mean
of
until
teams.
you start on Sunday morning?
No. I'm saying for week 16. I mean, we make defensive special team grabs for week 16. I'm saying that these are good week 16 guys.
So who's the guy this week?
This week, it's got to be Fozzie.
Okay, so you would start Fozzie over Bolden, or no?
No.
You start Brandon Bolden.
Yes.
I'd go Bolden.
Would you start Fozzie Whitaker or Chris Polk?
I would start Fozzie Whitaker.
Fozzie.
Jonathan Grimes.
Fozzie.
Fred Jackson.
Fozzie.
Fozzie.
Alfred Morris.
Probably Fozzie.
Okay. All right. That's
Waka
what I need.
waka.
That's what I need to know. So, Ian Rappaport reports, like I said, nothing imminent between. Oh, we already talked about Steven Jackson. All right. Julian Edelman practiced in full.
Hey, that's dangerous.
This is dangerous for Danny Amendola enthusiasts.
Well, Danny Amendola was already getting limited work, where you can see that he's still coming back from that the injury. The Patriots are not playing him full. They didn't play him full time last week. And funny enough, on this, one of the newest news blurbs is Calvin Pryor from the Jets saying that Des Bryant doesn't look the same since which maybe this is or is not functional news, but if other players are talking about, man, Des Bryant does not look the same since that foot injury. Edelman had the exact same injury, right?
Yeah.
I thought he had a Jones fracture.
That was the
foot.
initial report. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I don't.
Either way, the Edelman, let's say he plays this week, I'm not playing him.
That's interesting because I have the completely opposite opinion. I think if he's healthy enough to be put out there in their situation right now, if he starts, he'll be what Gronk did last week, which he'll be utilized to the full. I think that what the practice reports say on Edelman is that he looks super crisp in and out of routes and looks good. So I guess that's a gut call for you as an individual fantasy owner. If you have the room to start somebody else, I understand the protection against the injury. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can break the tie here at least and just say my personal, if this was a choice I was making on my team, if Edelman plays, which I got to think if he's practicing in full that he's going to play, then I would start him, and I would, again, hedge my bets against, if you've got other good options to start, then sure, wait a week. That's a luxury. But I think if Edelman plays, most people should start him. And if Edelman plays, I would not start Danny Amendola. I would look elsewhere.
Yep. Tyler Eifert is not practicing yet from the concussion situation.
Oof.
So we don't have anything else to report other than we'll know more in this week and we'll tell you whether we think he's going to start. We have our starts of the week at the tight end position at the end of today's show. So stay tuned for that if you need another guy to pick up.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It's not Tyler Eifert. It's not our start of the week.
No, he's not.
My gut tells me he's not going to play.
I know. I feel the same way.
When people don't practice coming off of a concussion a week later, that's not usually a good sign.
All right. We do expect C.J. Anderson to play in Week 15 against the Steelers, but how much can you really expect from him?
If they think he's back, he's going to get out there.
All right. A guy...
Because Ronnie Hillman was atrocious.
But would you start him?
Well, maybe
Fozzie Whitaker or C.J. Anderson this week?
Fozzie Whitaker.
Fozzie, I think. They're playing Oakland, though. That's tough.
Yeah, but they're playing the Steelers, the number one fantasy run D. I mean, C.J. Anderson is.
Oh, who? Never mind. I for some reason I was thinking the Broncos were playing Oakland.
Oh,
because I was way off. Way off.
That is not correct.
Thank you for the update.
So we'll move on. Dante Moncrief is in a walking boot. It doesn't look good.
What? His walking boot doesn't look good?
It's not very stylish.
He hasn't had
needs
enough
to-
people sign it.
Fashion police.
Bedazzle it.
Yeah. My wife to the rescue. I believe, and I could have gotten this report wrong, but it looked like the Colts offense is in a walking boot.
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Here's the incredible thing about the Colts right now, and we'll get into it in the matchup. Trending the wrong direction. Giving up a lot of points over the last 2 weeks, something like an average of 49 a game or something ridiculous. So Yeah, not looking good for that situation. But if Moncrief's out, do you just de facto start Hilton and expect the volume to be there? Because he's been all right with Hasselbeck.
Yeah, I would start him either way, but if Moncrief is out, maybe he gets a little target bump.
All right, a couple more quick bits of news. Matt Schaub's expected to start against the Chiefs. So,
really?
So yes. So that is
that helps Buck Nasty.
It might help. Yeah, it might help Buck Allen. It might also help the Chiefs' defense more than Jimmy Clausen because 2 pick sixes, 4 interceptions in his last 2 starts. Andre Ellington not expected to play, so
David Johnson
and Alshon Jeffery limited at Wednesday's practice. With Alshon Jeffery,
I couldn't let it go. Sorry.
That's fine. I respect that.
Thanks.
With Alshon Jeffery, though,
all in.
You cannot ignore a report about his calf in practice.
No way can you ignore that. This calf has been a lingering problem all year long. It has affected whether or not he's able to play. It's affected how he plays in the game. And so this is concerning news if you're an Alshon Jeffery owner. It might make my difficult decision between Mike Evans and Randall Cobb very easy this week. If he misses,
the answer may be both.
The answer may be both.
Right.
Except for you have to choose one tonight. If you're going to play Mike Evans, you have to start him today.
Thursday night.
No. Well, that means
I guess Mike Evans is in your lineup.
That means Mike Evans is definitely in my lineup, and I will not put him in my flex. Just another
Eddie Royal
weekly public service announcement. Put him in your wide receiver.
Would you handcuff Alshon Jeffery with Eddie Royal in the event that he's out?
No.
You would not.
I would not. I don't think Eddie Royal is going to.
No Marcus Wilson.
Right. I just don't see Eddie Royal right now, how he's been this year. I don't see him being a replacement for Alshon Jeffery. I would hope that playoff teams have a better option on their bench
Fair enough.
than that replacement.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense.
Eddie Royale with Chiefs is just not getting targets.
No.
So
Yeah.
But he just came back from injury. So I still think he has a lot of potential. So.
Yeah, he's been injured all year. It hasn't been good for him.